Hello, welcome to Football Discussion Daily. My name is Joe. I'm here with co-host
Gio.
CGO or George, and today is the 2nd of February 2026. We are talking about the January transfer window or winter transfer window across Europe. We're going to talk about some big signings. Some bigger ones I'm going to run down before I pass it off to George for the winter window. We have a couple big money signings over to Manchester City. We have Antoine Semenyo, who's already scored a couple goals. We have a Mark Gahey. We have Brennan Johnson and Jurgen Strand Larson going to Crystal Palace, but also Mark Gahey, as I just mentioned, left Crystal Palace. We had rumors of Mateta leaving Crystal Palace, but that did not pan out. We have Conor Gallagher coming back to the Premier League after, what, a year and a half? Is that right, George?
Yeah.
Or yeah, a year and a half in Spain to come back to Spurs. We have Oscar Bob, who's a promising young prospect, going to Fulham. And then this was announced for this summer, but we have Jeremy Jacquet, who Liverpool signed for. They had a pre-signing. He'll actually join in June. This is not a loan back for 6 months. This is a pre-purchase, so they agreed to purchase him in June, but it's a binding contract. George, which of those excites you the most? Which of those do you think will have the most impact in the next 6 months? Which do you think will have the most impact in the next 5 years? What are your thoughts?
Well, for me, Anton Semenyo going to Manchester City, at least he has been making impact since he got to the club. I think he has played about 4 games for them and he already has about 3 goals, if I'm not wrong here. But since he joined Man City, we've seen the impact he has made in the team. We all know the quality of Anton Semenyo. Right from the time he was in Bournemouth, he did a whole lot there. And coming to City, he has been able to show that yes, money spent on him is not a waste. So he started the ground running so quick. He's hitting the ground running, not wasting time because there are players that when they go to a big club like City, they need time for them to adapt. But it seems this guy came in and is very fast in his adaptation to the way the team plays. And for me, he has been playing very well for the club. And then for McGee, for me, he has also not done badly. I think he has played about 2 games now for City, and he has been very impressive so far as I'm concerned. We've seen some very good blocks he has made, trying to stop opponents from getting past the City defense. So for me, I think they are good signings for Manchester City so far as I'm concerned. And then for Mateta, like you said, the deal to AC Milan collapsed. I think after the medical, I think something wasn't right and the deal couldn't sail through. But that didn't stop Crystal Palace from going to sign the player who was supposed to be like a replacement for him. That's George Larson, Strand Larson, who came from Wolves to Crystal Palace. I think it was about 45 million pounds. Uh, that was what the transfer fee is. So for me, Strad Larson, I don't know what I is going to perform at Crystal Palace because this season I don't think he has really done very well at Wolves. Unlike last season, he was much a better player than what I've seen with him this season.
I mean, Wolves in general have been much more poor this season. I feel like these clubs judge players on much longer time frames than 3 months. I think no Erling Haaland would score, 5 goals in 25 games for Wolves this season. They're just not very good. They're one of the worst Premier League teams by points in history. I wouldn't judge that. I think last year is much more indicative of what he can provide to Crystal Palace going forward than this year. And when I watch Wolves, there's very few players in that team where I'm like, that guy can stay in the Premier League. I watch West Ham. I watch other relegated teams in the past, and I'm like, oh, that player, he can go up. Like that player is going to go somewhere. Tyler Dibling last year looked special on a very bad Southampton team. He is not doing well at Everton, but I do feel like the talent's there. And when I see Strandlar, I mean, when I watch Wolves this year, it's just very difficult to judge that talent there, especially from a striker who, at best, is going to get not many touches per game. You mentioned about Semenyo. I feel like you buy a 26-year-old winger, you better hope he slots in right away. Like you don't buy the 26-year-old winger for a 5-year plan. There are signings that we've mentioned, we've talked about, we will talk about that are not expected to be do right away. Same with Mark Gahey. The guy's been starting in the Premier League for years. You don't buy that player with that kind of money on that kind of wages. With the expectation of let's slowly ramp them in, especially in the middle of the season. I think Manchester City is preparing for a post Pep world. There's also rumors about Pep Guardiola leaving. I do feel like that is something that could happen this summer. Obviously, I don't have information, but it'll be good. That would be, his 10 years is forever in football management. But yeah, no, both of those signings, I think, going to do very well for City the next 3.5 years. They've had very few misses in the transfer market. Even Grealish was great for a couple of years. The only thing you could say about Man City signings is maybe they overpaid more than a Liverpool or an Arsenal would have paid, but on the field, none of their signings are very rarely are bad. Especially Guardiola can slot players in very very well. I think Semenyo brings something very different than Doku on the wing or Ryan Cherky, who plays wide, but he's more of a central wide player than he is a pure winger. Same with Semenyo. He's not going to beat a guy as good as Doku, but he's probably a little bit more composed. So he can bring something very different, and Pep definitely has a lot of options there for the rest of the season. It'll make Man City more exciting. George, what about the moves? Crystal Palace. You mentioned Stren Larson. What about Brendan Johnson? What about losing Gahey? They have not won. They've had a very poor run of form. I think they're
Yeah.
9 points up on West Ham. Is there any chance that they get dragged into a relegation battle?
Well, I don't think they will be dragged into the relegation battle. Uh, they've not really been too bad. I think what has affected Crystal Palace is the exit of few of their players. We also saw how Eberechieze left the club, and then Mark Gay also left. So such kind of key players leaving a club can affect the stability of the team. I believe they just need just a matter of little time for the coach to stabilize the ship and then get them going. But I don't think they will find themselves in the relegation battle. Crystal Palace still have some very good players who can hold their own any day, anytime. I
Yeah,
don't think they
Adam
will.
Adam Wharton too is fantastic. It doesn't look like his name was thrown around a lot this January. A lot of big clubs are in for him. Even Real Madrid, I think I saw. I don't know how reliable that link was, but whenever I watch Crystal Palace, he's phenomenal, and I think he'll be on the up. But he doesn't seem to be in a rush, which I think is really good. And if he does move, it won't be until the summer. And he enough can drag a team to enough points to stay up in this league.
But,
I
but
think
I wanted to ask you something. Do you think the transfer fee for George Stradlassen, if that is not an overpriced the transfer fee, was signed for about 45 million pounds? What do you
yeah.
think about that?
Um, I have like I said, if they get the Stren Larson of last year, who can score 12 points on a team Crystal Palace is targeting 10 to 14th place. They're gonna get, you know, fight for Europe once every 5 years. They're gonna be in a relegation battle once every 5 years. They're your standard like mid-table club. If he gets 10 to 15 goals every season for 5 seasons and moves on, like that's a good signing. That's a good fee. I mean, all these teams have crazy turnover. The fees are rising really fast. He's not an old player. When I look at like the Semenyo fee, there's no buyback clause for a 26-year-old winger. When for a 23-year-old striker, whoever old Stren Larson is, there is buyback bought in. Like another club is going to take a chance on him 2 or 3 years. If that fails, when that won't happen with Semenyo. And so those fees, especially for young players, almost low for a player who's started on a Premier League team for what, a year and a half now. 50 starts in the Premier League and something like 15 to 17 goals in the league, something like that. So on a team that's not doing too hot. So I think it's fair. I think Crystal Palace is not a team that overpays. They're one of the more money conscious teams in the league, and I don't think that fee is going to look bad in 5 years.
Because I was thinking, considering his performance this season, even though we know that Wolves has been really bad in the league this season. I was thinking that would be used to assess the value of the player because if a player is not really doing well, then the value should also drop. So that's why I was a bit surprised with the transfer fee of 45 million pounds for a player who has not really done very well. He has what it takes to do well, probably if he's in a team doing well as well. But considering the fact that he has not really performed so well, I thought the price should not be up to that 45 million pounds.
I mean, I've always felt transfer fees outside of the absolute elite players going to your Real Madrids or Man Cities of the world, which is another completely different market altogether. But in a world where it's Stren Larson, where there's a dozen players of his capability across Europe that Crystal Palace could have bought, and there's a market for it. It has more to do with wages and injuries and age than it does ability sometimes, and form does not factor in nearly as much as age, contract length, and wages. If you have a player on that you're underpaying for 7 years, Chelsea's built their entire club off this. If you underpay an elite player like a Cole Palmer for 10 years, like you are making bank because you've locked that player down. He's not going to be sold for under 100 million just because he's so good and he's basically underpaid. Time will tell. I feel like it's really hard to judge a fee in the moment, and it's really hard to judge Stren Larson on this Wolves team. George, what about Conor Gallagher? What do you think about him coming
I
back?
know Conor Gallagher has been very, very good. I think he has played about 3 games now for Tottenham, and he has been very, very good. If you watch the game against the last game they played against Man City, he was one of the players who was very exceptional on the pitch. One thing I like about
Agreed
Conor
completely.
Gallagher is
Agreed
I
completely.
love his energy. He knows how to press. He's such a very hardworking player. That's the kind of player you call a workaholic. You can't see him lazing around when he's on the pitch. That was why when Chelsea allowed him to leave, probably because they were trying to balance their book. For me, I think it was a very big loss that they allow a player of that quality to leave the team because that guy is very, very hardworking. I love his work rate when it comes to playing in the midfield. So I felt so bad when I realized Chelsea allowed such a great player to leave. I think that was even part of the reason why Pochettino, news we got there was that was part of the reason why Pochettino was not happy with the board, allowing Conor Gallagher to leave the club. So for me, it's a big loss for Chelsea. But I don't know what happened with him and Atletico. He couldn't really get much game time this season. Last season, he had a lot of game time, but this season, I don't know what really happened. Maybe based on coach's decision, maybe his pattern of play. I don't know why Diego Simone decided not to really use him that much this
You
season
know,
at Atletico.
I didn't watch them. I know Spain typically tends to not have that many energetic, their midfielders are more technical, more slow the game down than that style that you just described. Because it's almost a cliche, but with Gallagher, because everybody's like, oh, Gallagher, so much energy, but not amazing at anything else, but not bad, But those type of energetic or energy is your main work rate is your main thing. Don't like that's not the typical Spanish midfielder. I know I haven't watched him much in Spain, maybe 2 or 3 games, but I've also heard he hasn't done very well. I do think like, England is a much better fit for him, like because he's physical, he's strong, he's fast. He's not a bad. I mean, he's not bad at that technical aspect of the game, but you wouldn't that wouldn't jump out at you by watching him. I think he'll do great on Tottenham. I think Tottenham's his right level. I think he's also a player that really needs 90 minutes every week in order to maintain
Yes,
his
yes,
best, and he
yes,
was never going to get that at Chelsea. He's not a player that can come in and 20 minutes and lift your team up. I feel like he'll get that at Tottenham, and it's the right level
of
for him.
course.
And I've said in the past that both Chelsea and Tottenham have a lot of young players that would benefit from experienced players next to him. Gallagher is that type of player that I feel like Chelsea is missing, and would
Yes.
really benefit a lot of the young talent like Xavi Simons on Tottenham that are developing right now. Um, What about Jeremy Jacquet? Liverpool have three center backs right now, one of whom has been really poor form, one of whom has been hurt most of the year, but good when he plays, one of whom is not quite the greatest center back in the world anymore, but certainly a very good player still, to Virgil van Dijk. I would not say he's the best center back in the world. Like 5 years ago, he was about as good as any center back I've ever seen. He's not quite that good anymore, but he's still very good. What do you think Jeremy Jacquet brings to this Liverpool? Is this a Konate replacement? Is this a addition to the three center backs? Is this a Virgil van Dijk replacement? What do you think, George?
Well, I think part of the reason why, remember, Chelsea were going for Jeremy Jacquet before now, but I guess maybe it was the issue of maybe the price, because I think the price was about 60 million pounds.
Chelsea goes
That,
for everybody though, so hearing Chelsea in for a player that doesn't mean anything. It's like
so
Arsene Wenger almost signed this player. Like it means nothing. He
no,
almost signed half of Europe.
For me, there was no point going for him because you have lots of young players, young defenders. You have about eight centre backs, so there was no point Chelsea going for that guy. I think Liverpool needs that player than Chelsea, if you ask me, because even most of their centre backs, the ones they have, some of them are injured. Recently, we saw Joe Gomez got injured, and you see that sometimes they have to bring in a midfielder like Endo to come in and play. So it shows that Liverpool, they are really lacking when it comes to centre back. So for me, Liverpool will be a good fit, and I believe that's one of the things Jeremy Jacquet must have considered because he will have that belief that he stands to play more games at Liverpool than at Chelsea because Chelsea has about eight centre backs. So how do you come in and get to play every time? Any player would always any player who wants to develop will always like to go to a club where they can get enough game time. So for me, it was a very good decision that Jeremy Jacquet will be joining Liverpool, even though we're told the contract starts from July the 1st of this year. But for me, I think it was going to be a good addition because he has been doing very well with Reims in the French League One. He has played about 18 league games for the club.
Yeah.
If you watch him, the few games I've watched him play, he's a good player if you ask me. Because if a
And
player can have about 92% pass completion, that means that is a very good player.
for a center back, that's often indicative of, but if you of play style of the team, but than anything. But I agree with you. I mean, Liverpool don't typically spend 60 million pounds on teenagers. The couple they have, they spent big money on. I feel like Liverpool are very smart with how they spend money. Also, Liverpool's a great place to develop, and even with four center backs, they have Leone. Right now, they have Leone, who's also on the bench, who they signed as a guy who could play minutes this season. They did not sign him as development. Liverpool do not sign players for 1 year because Gomez is hurt or Konate is in poor form. Liverpool sign players for 5 to 10 years, and they definitely believe in Jacquet. They put the money where their mouth is. Uh, they have assurance if Konate is gone. It's a very good possibility Gomez is gone just because he can't stay fit enough. It's a very good possibility Konate, who's a free agent, is gone this summer. That leaves him with Van Dijk, who'll be 35 next year. And I think he can still play for 2 or 3 years, but maybe not 90 minutes twice a week. You have Leone and you have Jacquet. That this is if a top team has four center backs and are in all competitions, there's plenty of time to go around, and Jacquet will develop well under Slot or whoever comes after him. I'm excited for that. Let me close out with those standard questions, George. Number one, what signing will be most impactful over the next 6 months? Will Man City signings propel them to a title? Will Conor Gallagher bail out Thomas Frank? Does the Jacquet signing mean that Liverpool knows that Konate has gone? Last year we saw them sign Frimpong almost immediately after the season ended. That Liverpool likely knew Trent was gone most of last year and had a very clear plan in place. I wonder if Jacquet is that plan for Konate because Liverpool are a very well run club. And last question: what signing will have the biggest impact over the next 5 years? Um, is that Gahey? Is that Brendan Johnson? Maybe will be a legend at Spurs. Let us know your thoughts. Maybe Oscar Bob at Fulham. Maybe he helps keep Fulham up. That'll be an interesting signing. Let us know your thoughts. Follow us on any platform that you're watching us on. Have a good rest of your day.